Look no further than what's going on with the Judgment Day. That is easily the premier storyline on Monday Night Raw, arguably in the WWE, because of the long-term story that they've been telling. You look back, wind the clock back to the spring of 2022. Edge was feuding with AJ Styles. Edge had issued an open challenge for WrestleMania 38. He was looking for an opponent that would test his limits, someone that would challenge him, being that he was a grizzled veteran, looking for some fight. AJ Styles answers the call, and they're going to have their battle at WrestleMania 38 in Dallas, Texas. And along the lines, a babyface Edge would turn heel for the first time since 2010. And you would see these tendencies. He became a little darker, a little bit more menacing. And at WrestleMania, he would defeat AJ Styles with the help of Damian Priest. And that in itself served as the inception, the creation of the Judgment Day. They would have their feud elevate to WrestleMania Backlash, where AJ Styles again would suffer a loss to Edge due to interference from a mysterious hooded figure that revealed himself to be Rhea Ripley. We now had 3 members of the Judgment Day. Over the course of the next few months, we would see the likes of Finn Balor team with AJ Styles, along with the likes of Liv Morgan. Now, the 3 of them would fight against the Judgment Day's Edge, Damian Priest, and Rhea Ripley. But it was the night after their Hell in a Cell mixed tag match, their mixed tag match at the Hell in a Cell event, that we saw the addition of Finn Balor. And with that came the shocking revelation that they would kick out their leader, that they would kick out Edge. Now the Judgment Day was in its pretty much the form that we all knew and grew to know. Finn Balor, Damian Priest, Rhea Ripley. Interesting enough, a sidebar here, I'm very much into the behind the scenes of what goes on with the storylines. At the Hell in a Cell event the night before, Cody Rhodes obviously wrestled with a torn pectoral tendon, and he would miss time. He wouldn't be back until the Royal Rumble, so they were short on baby faces, which would explain why they had to kick Edge out of the group, forcing him to become a baby face. Little inside knowledge for those who didn't know. But we move back to the Judgment Day storyline, and now the story becomes, what are we going to do with these 3 individuals? What's the story now? Why are they doing what they're doing? And Rhea Ripley still feuding with Liv Morgan because they had their own pass. You see, they were a tag team. At WrestleMania 38, they were a tag team for the tag titles. They weren't successful. And over time, Liv Morgan fighting Rhea Ripley, establishing this content, this dissension between the two. And in the meantime, who was one of Edge's good friends, Rey Mysterio. Rey Mysterio and his newly active son, Dominic Mysterio, would be in tag team matches against the likes of Damian Priest and Finn Balor. This would lead to Rhea Ripley gaining a little bit of interest in Dominic Mysterio, wanting to maybe lure him to the dark side. Now, there were times I remember where she would have him in a submission hold, locking her legs around his neck and choking him out. And you wondered, what are they doing with this story? Is Dominic going to join the Judgment Day, or how are they going to move forward with this? And it would all culminate at Clash at the Castle in 2022, where Rey Mysterio chose Edge as his tag team partner. And obviously, if you remember, this was the event that Dominic Mysterio finally showed his true colors and turned not only on Edge, but on his own father, Rey Mysterio. He said that you chose him over me. You chose him over your own family. And this was the beginning of, I think, one of the better modern storylines in WWE. Not only has it managed to remain relevant for the last couple of years, but it's demonstrated the improvement and the growth that Dominic has had, not only in ring, but as a character. He's one of the most over heels. He probably is the most over heel acts, not only in WWE, but in pro wrestling. Every time he enters an arena, he is showered with boos. He is heckled. He won't even be allowed the opportunity to speak most of the time. And it's just amazing, because when was the last time you saw that on a consistent basis? It's not like it's one guy in a city that hates him. or in one of those smart crowds who recognizes how to react to certain wrestlers. No, it's in every city. He is struggling to get a word out because the boos, such animosity towards Dominic Mysterio. And to see that level of growth, we would see him join the Judgment Day. He would start wearing, well, a lot more purple, a lot more black, had his hair slicked, a new attitude, a new attire. And over time, he became more closer with Rhea Ripley, the same woman who lured him into the Judgment Day. And we would see that continue on as he had his feud with Rey Mysterio. Ultimately, he would lose at WrestleMania 39. But then over time, we saw the bond of the Judgment Day come into question. There were times where there was a little bit of a dissension within the ranks of the Judgment Day. There were times where we weren't sure who was the leader. Rhea, Finn, Damian, especially throughout last summer when you had Rhea as the world champion. Finn was the number one contender for the world title, challenging Seth Rollins at Money in the Bank and SummerSlam. And Damian Priest, who was the most recent winner of the Money in the Bank ladder match. All to say, were we getting ready for the breakup? But that wasn't the case. Although Finn Balor was unable to capture the world title, he and Damian Priest, at this point calling himself Senor Money in the Bank, would win the tag team championships, defeating Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. Now, we're leading into this new era where they're all champions because Dominic Mysterio recently would capture the North American Championship in NXT. Like I said, Rhea is still the world champion, and the tag team champions, Finn Balor, Damian Priest. We would see the likes of R-Truth and JD McDonough join the Judgment Day. Recently, Carlito trying to join the Judgment Day. But the story takes an interesting turn at WrestleMania 40. At WrestleMania 40, Becky Lynch unsuccessfully challenges for the Women's World Championship. She would lose to Rhea Ripley, and Rhea Ripley would successfully hold the title for over a year. But it was that night after that she was attacked by a returning Liv Morgan. Liv Morgan, who we last mentioned in this story, was feuding with Rhea Ripley in the summer of 2023, but due to a shoulder injury, that would see her out of action until January, where she would return as the number 30 entrant in the Women's Royal Rumble. Since then, she kind of kept her distance from Rhea Ripley, but obviously kept alluding to this revenge tour. She wanted to come back and claim what was hers, a match with Rhea Ripley and the Women's World Championship. This would culminate at WrestleMania 40, as I mentioned, where Rhea Ripley would retain the title against Becky. The night after, she would be attacked by Liv Morgan, suffering a real-life injury that has still seen her sidelined. We don't know when she's coming back. And since then, Liv Morgan had her eyes locked on that Women's World Championship, and a battle royal was set in which Becky Lynch would emerge victorious, gaining the championship. Liv Morgan, again, obsessed with this revenge tour. She would not be satisfied with nothing less than the world title. And as we saw at King and Queen of the Ring, she would do so by capturing the Women's World title, defeating Becky Lynch, albeit with a little help, unintentional or not, by Dominic Mysterio. And that concludes that chapter, the revenge tour. One could say it was completed, but not for Liv Morgan. You see, because in recent weeks, she's been demonstrating these level of interest in Dominic Mysterio. One week she would claim that I got Rhea Ripley injured. She's gone. I have her world title. But I said I would take everything from her, and that included Dominic Mysterio. These advances that she's been making towards Dominic, very compelling, because now you don't know who to trust. Is Dominic Mysterio sincere when he claims to not want to entertain these advancements by a Liv Morgan? Is Liv Morgan actually interested in Dominic, or is this just a ploy to rile up Rhea Ripley, or perhaps destroy the Judgment Day? I think it would be the latter. I think it's Liv Morgan trying to play mind games. She's not interested in Dominic at all. She's interested in destroying the group that essentially cost her 6 months of her own career. And I don't think she'll be satisfied until she sees it through. But when you have segments like the one that we saw this past week on Monday Night Raw, where she's offering her hotel key card to Dominic Mysterio, obviously making serious advancements towards him. We saw the bump that occurred during the tag team match when she fell on top of Dominic Mysterio. And I just keep wondering, how is Rhea Ripley going to react? Obviously, in past years, we would say, oh, does she even know? But it's been established that a lot of the members of the roster watch back Raw. They watch back the footage. And if I'm Rhea Ripley, why wouldn't I check out Monday Night Raw to see how members of the Judgment Day are doing? You're going to keep contact with your boys, right? You're going to make sure everything's okay. So she has to know. She has to have some semblance of acknowledgement revolving around the whole Liv Morgan situation. But is she contacting Dominic? Is she talking to Dominic as much? Dominic claimed to have given Mommy her space. But again, unreliable narrators. We don't know if that's the case. We don't know what Rhea Ripley's stance is until she returns. One interesting note that I thought, it shouldn't have gone unnoticed, but they didn't really, refer to it later in the episode of Raw. And that was right before they head out. There is a moment when all members of the Judgment Day collectively, put up their fists for a collective, fist bump. And you see Finn Balor reach out and grab the key card from the table while no one was noticing. We're going to assume that no one noticed. But you see him reach out and he grabs the card, puts it in his pocket, his jacket pocket, to be precise. Why? And that's the question that we need to be asking. Why? Obviously, it was meant for Dominic. Was Finn Balor taking out of the way as a means to prevent Dominic from doing something stupid? Was it Finn Balor perhaps taking up on that offer? Is there some kind of cahoots between Finn Balor and Liv Morgan? There was an episode of Raw where we saw them sharing the same car. Much like how Liv Morgan and Dominic Mysterio were in the same room at one point. Is there something being planned here, right? I don't know about the Dominic Mysterio. I'm on the assumption that Liv Morgan is just trying to break up the Judgment Day, because I think that's just a natural progression in the story. But when in regards to Finn Balor, I'm thinking back to 2022. Liv Morgan and Finn Balor were on the same team for a couple months, battling Damian, battling Rhea Ripley. Are we going to be seeing the Judgment Day split in two? Much like what's going on with the Bloodline? I don't think they would do that, because why would you have the same story being told on both shows? Something to keep an eye out. Very interesting developments with the Judgment Day and Liv Morgan storyline. We look forward to next week on Monday Night Raw, seeing where they go with it. But who knows, maybe at Clash at the Castle, we see something happen. Obviously, Damian Priest will be defending his World Heavyweight Championship against Drew McIntyre in what I think probably will be the main event of the show, being that it's in Scotland, Drew McIntyre's hometown, home country. Maybe we see something there. I doubt it, obviously, because Drew McIntyre won the match against Finn Balor, preventing any members of the Judgment Day to be ringside, but they're heels. They could break the rules, right? I don't think anything's going to come out of it, but maybe in a backstage segment prior to the match, leading up to the match. Obviously, social media is in play, because you see instances like Liv Morgan liking like every picture of Dominic Mysterio's on Instagram, and Damian Priest, posting a story referring to it, saying it's like a red flag. Anything's in play, and everything counts.